What's up, everybody? I'm here underneath of Cherry with my hands about elbow deep into these headers because we are putting a starter on this so that I can start this engine and we can get this car driving. So we got Alex over there. He's working on brake lines, getting the brakes done. I'm in here finishing up everything else. Putting this starter in has proven to be, honestly, the biggest struggle so far. If you look up in here, just look over here from this thing, mate. That thing is behind bars, dude.
Locked
That was
away.
that was something else. I ended up actually having to take the face off of the starter, so it's just the bare motor and the solenoid. Then it sneaks up in there. So that's what we're up to right at this very moment in time. You guys saw in the very last video that we wired up our Terminator X system, did some miscellaneous plumbing, and in fact, my fuel pump has come in. So we've got our fuel pump over here. It's an Aeromotive 340 pump, just a drop-in in-tank deal. I got my nice line sticking out to the side here, marked pressure. So we're gonna be hooking up our fuel lines, our fuel regulators in there, fuel regulators mounted. We've actually done a lot of stuff that I did not show you that I'll go over here in a minute. I can't believe we're driving this thing. Starting at the back of the engine bay, we have got our UPR clutch quadrant and clutch cable sitting in here pretty. I've got my clutch adjusted to where I want it. That is all good, so our clutch should be ready to go. We've got fuel lines plumbed in the back right here. Some nice dash 6AN, dash 6AN here. So it's all dash 6AN fuel system, which is gonna be plenty good for the 500 horsepower that this thing will be running. Fuel lines, got that. Put my fuel pressure sensor in. Up to at the front of the engine bay, we've got our water hoses on. I've got my remote water pump down there. That is an Autometer remote water pump because I could not figure out a good way to make a mechanical or traditional style electric water pump fit in here good. So I just did a remote one down there, ran these behind the belts so that when this thing inevitably does eat some belts, I don't have to take my water hoses on and off to change belts. So that's pretty much covers everything there. Power steering pump. This is something a little bit different. So this is a GM Type 2 power steering pump that I've adapted onto my small block Ford heads. So basically what I've done is taken this power steering pump. This is specifically off of like a 2010 Camaro. This is a relatively go-to power steering pump for a lot of drift guys and a lot of road course and autocross guys and circle track guys. Everybody uses the GM Type 2 power steering pump when it comes to mechanical power steering pumps. I did think about doing an electric power steering pump, but I happen to have a lot of the stuff around that I already needed for this, including this bracket. So something special that I want to point out about this bracket is this is actually a big block Chevy power steering bracket, and it just happens to be that the big block Chevy lower mounting bolts on the block are very close to what the small block Ford cylinder head mounting bolts are. So with a little bit of slotting, I was actually able to use this big block Chevy basically power steering pump setup and adapt it over to my small block Ford heads and throw it on to our Torque Storm supercharger kit pretty nicely. All the belts look really good. We've got decent belt wrap around everything we need here. Belts are looking all good. While we're on the topic of power steering, I've got my power steering cooler down here. So I've got a nice big fat, it's gonna be kind of difficult to see, but we got a nice big fat power steering cooler in there. Some nice mounts on it up here to keep my power steering fluid cool, because when I'm sawing at this wheel or when this thing is moving and it's making pressure, making laps at the track, that power steering fluid gets hot. So I've got my cooler down here, nice hog cooler. Not much to be said about that. It's just here. Anyway, I think this is actually one of the old oil coolers off of the wagon that we had sitting around, so I've multi-purposed it. Up here also in the front, we've got our coolant expansion tank tied into the radiator. So our coolant system is basically 100% ready to go. And like I said earlier, we've got pretty much this entire car wired up and ready to go. We saw that we have our body wiring is all working. Our Terminator X is all wired up and working. The next thing that I'm going to be moving on to here is trying to hook up our throttle cable. So I'm just going to build a nice little bracket adapter for this so that I can put it down here on there. So that's going to be kind of difficult because it is really tight. Ain't nothing too difficult though. We'll figure it out. Now, you might see that I have this party pulley up on my supercharger here, and it's all just on there loose, because actually what I'm kind of planning on at this time is that I'm not going to run this car with the blower at first. I'm just going to let it be there and take the belt off, let it run NA. That is because I want to make sure that this car is 100% dialed in how I want it, and engine is all good, tune is all good, all the miscellaneous bullcrap is just ready to go before I go ahead and just send it with the blower and 500 horsepower. 500 horsepower might not sound like a lot, and given the scope of things that we do here at Steve Morris Engines, it really isn't, but 500 horsepower is a lot on this stock block 302. So I want to get as much life as possible out of this thing. And honestly, from you guys commenting and telling me that that thing's going to split in half, you're making me a little nervous, okay? So I'm going to run it without the blower for at least for like the preliminary startup and the first few laps. Once I get the rest of the car ironed out, we'll throw the blower belt on there with as big of an upper pulley as I can possibly put on it. And we'll slow the supercharger way down so it's not making a ton of boost. And we can kind of go from there, I'm thinking. But before we can worry about any of that, I got to get back down there and finish putting the starter on. I'm actually going to have to take that friggin' faceplate back off and rotate it. It's a nightmare down there. So first things first, go take care of that starter. All right, so basically, I've spent all day today making this nice little X-pipe to dual side exit exhaust that I'm, you know, relatively proud of, actually. This is my first time doing a full exhaust on a car. Every other car that I've had before, you know, I've said it, is a turbo car. So I never have anything that has exhaust going out this way. Just made this out of, I believe it's just a Flowmaster Universal kit or whatever. I didn't want to go crazy with the exhaust because this exhaust will more than likely get ripped off the bottom of the car the first time I go off the side of the track. So I'm keeping it relatively simple and cheap, and I think it's still going to sound amazing with this X-pipe. So this is a 3-inch off of my 3-inch collectors on my long tube headers all the way out. So it's got plenty of exhaust flow. If anything, probably too much for the size of this engine, but that's besides the point. So right now I'm just wrapping up my O2 sensor, trying to get this tucked up out of the way nicely. And then I'm gonna let it back down. We'll put a little bit of water in it, and we're gonna try and start it. What? It's time, finally. I can't believe it. But before we do that, I wanna show you this real quick too. So we've got our fuel cell up here. I've still got quite a bit of work to do as far as like the torque box and upper and lower control arms, but we're gonna hold off on those for right this moment.
Are you gonna be doing that kind of like after it's started and running? And like moving under its own
power? I'll get it like moving around under its own power, make sure everything else is good, and then we can get into the torque boxes in the back half of the car later.
You also changed a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
At once.
Yeah. So I know that this is gonna be it for. I mean, I'll go do some donuts driving around and whatever, but I don't want to get into it right away because I want to drive my car and enjoy it. So that's kind of where we're at right now. I did my fuel lines. Fuel lines are hanging up here nicely. We'll probably tuck this up a little bit more out of the way so it's not close to my exhaust. This is the exact same spot where I actually run fuel lines on Blueberry, and I haven't ever had an issue, and that's got like a 3 3/4 inch carbon fiber shaft in it, so I think it's gonna be fine right there. Those run all the way up to here to little male union junction hose that goes up to my fuel pump. And I'll show you that real quick, guys, because I did something, maybe some people will say they don't like it, but there's a firewall in the back of the car, so it'll be totally fine. So back here next to our beautiful Gulf Coast carbon fiber drive shaft, we've got our fuel pump access panel, I guess if you want to call it that. So I just cut all this crap out. I want to make a nice bezel piece that will go over this and make it pretty again. But all just so that if anything does happen to the fuel pump, I do not have to drop this fuel cell, this fuel tank, because it's kind of a pain in the butt. This just makes it like way easier. So just go ahead and cut that out. The rear seat area back here will have a solid panel, so we'll have a firewall and everything for the tech guys that are maybe watching this. So I'm being safe, or at least trying to. That pretty much wraps up the back of the car, everything that I've done so far there. And I think it's time to put water in this thing. So let's go. Water pump on.
All watered up?
all watered up, ready to go. So we're now looking up our laptop. I'm gonna check timing, get my timing light out there. What's the number one thing? What's the first thing you want to do when you're starting up a car with a new engine in it? You want to check the timing, verify. I've known way too many people got burned by that. Fuel pump is on. ECU's on, online. You got throttle. It does run.
It does run.
I was gonna hop out and check timing real quick, but did not stay running long enough.
That sounds good.
Just wait till you give her a little rev. It's got a little bit too much exhaust on it, which is why it kind of sounds not all that great at idle, but you give any amount of RPMs, I can already tell that it's gonna sound sweet.
It's gonna be screaming.
It's gonna be screaming. Our timing is off, and something is. You're right.
Sounds like it's dripping. Is that a belt?
Nope. Something ain't right with the power steering pump. It's not supposed to do that. Okay. Can you grab a rag, please?
Yeah.
I don't think that the power steering fluid is supposed to look like that. And I don't think it's supposed to be that pressurized. I'm thinking that something has maybe been hooked up wrong, or it shouldn't be doing that. It's just spraying out. So, and the timing was off. It was way retarded. So I'm gonna have to go back in the program and move some things or move it on the distributor. But to do that, I don't want to run this power steering pump if it's hooked up backwards. So I have to take the belts off of it. It's gonna be just a second. We'll get back to it. Oh. You can take the blower belt and the serpentine belt off without taking the water lines off. That was one thing that I made 100% sure that you could do, because I've run into that a number of times on other customers' vehicles where they've got water lines that go just through and in, and then you have to take the water lines off to get any kind of belts off. It sucks. So I made sure that I plumbed these behind all the belts.
Smart thinking.
Put your thinking cap on. Well, upon trying to check where the timing was at on this thing, I neglected to mark before putting it in the car which of these zeros, because there's 3 sets of zeros for TDC on this balancer based on where your timing pointer is at in different small block Ford variations. So I'll roll this over and I can show you that there's 3 different sets of marks. I'm not sure which mark is the right mark. So we're gonna have to re-verify our TDC, which is no big deal. Just go get the piston stop. But you can see we've got one right here, 0 through 40. Another one right here, 0 through 40. And another one right here. And I was under the impression that it was the middle one, but it doesn't really seem to want to run anywhere in there or idle, which is weird because it idled, everything was fine on the dyno. So we're just gonna have to get the piston stop out and we'll find TDC and then we can recheck it again. This is why I said it's important to make sure that you guys are checking this stuff, because you put that on the more advanced TDC marker on the balancer, it's gonna be bad. You'll be running with like 50 degrees of timing and it'll blow up. So that's not what we want. And the fortunate thing about these headers, even though they're a, cheap whatever Chinese header, is I can actually get to all the spark plugs on this thing, which is a major plus. Super stoked about that. Looks pretty good. I'm gonna have to put all new plugs in it anyways because I don't want to really run this heat range. I want to run slightly colder than this. This will be fine just for what we're doing right now. We've got our piston stop here. Now this is like a not very good one. This one was just one that I actually just made in the lathe by just lopping off a spark plug and threading in this piece of 7/16. And then I've got a little piece of weld on there so that I don't lose my spark plug end. We're just gonna thread this in there. And what we're gonna do is we're basically just gonna find the center line of where the crankshaft is at TDC. So we'll screw this in there until it just touches the piston, go all the way back around until it just touches the piston. We're going to just split the difference between those two to find the center number, which will be our TDC. And I've already got my little poverty pointer down there, a piece of welding wire, and hopefully it will line up with one of these zeros. All right, so I've screwed in our little screw, and we can see that, ironically enough, we are stopped right at where I already put a white mark at 30 degrees.
It's easy to remember.
Easy to remember. Now we just spin away opposite rotation. It must have moved. Okay, since my tool didn't work, we're gonna do this like the super old-fashioned way, which is we're just gonna feel where that piston is at with this long screwdriver. We know where the basic marks are at, and if you've done this a time or two, you can tell where the piston is at TDC, and you can feel where it starts to stop moving, where is that dwell, and when it comes back down. So we're gonna go ahead. We're at like 30 degrees, which is where I thought the timing mark was at. I can stick the screwdriver in the hole, and I can feel that the piston is still a ways down. So we're gonna go ahead and keep going. You can feel the piston coming up. Stop. And now it's coming back down. So that means that this mark is wrong. We need to put this over here. Go ahead and fire it up, Nate.
Yes, sir.
My timing set where it needs to be, but you can see that our rotor was not like this before. Our distributor was not turned like that before, so I need to roll it over, and I think that might be a tooth off on the distributor. Before I hop in here and we start this thing up, I wanted to show you guys this sweet little switch panel that I had my boy Zach make for me. All right, everybody, we've got the one and only Zachary in the house. What's going on over here, Zach?
All right, so we're making a switch panel for the Mustang. This is the beginning of the center console that we'll eventually do, but we're going to have auxiliary switches here. Most likely going to be a water and ignition, right?
Yep,
Okay.
ignition, water pump / fan. So
Cool. Yeah.
that's going to be like the nice aluminum filler panel that we're putting in where the old like shifter bezel went, and then behind that is actually going to go a carbon fiber center console that we've yet to make. So that's going to be coming up in future videos, but we don't really need that to make the car run and drive, so we're just going to make this switch panel real quick so that we can get this thing running. Look at that sucker down there. Freaking professional, dude. Now right up above it, below the head unit, we're going to do a little filler panel, so that's why I have that piece down here. We got this piece right here that we're going to cut up to fill that in, so I'm hiding my wires that are tucked behind there, and I got a little shelf right here. That's going to be pretty sick. We've not yet gotten to the center console part of this job yet, but that's definitely on the list for things to do here, because I can't be rolling around with it looking like this. We gotta make this thing look somewhat presentable, you know what I'm saying? So that's all things that you guys are going to see in future videos, but for now, let's fire this thing up, dude. Okay, we're back to try again, and this time we have our boy Alex over here because it's a little bit difficult for Nate to film and keep the car running while I'm checking, and it's just too much. So Alex is here helping us out. We're ready to fire this thing up again and set the timing, finally. This has been like one of the most hassles I've ever experienced trying to just set timing on a car for some reason, but let's get her done. thing is pretty loud. Sounds good though.
Mm-hmm.
Can smell the header wrap burning off. All right, cool. Well, now, since we got Alex here, and Alex is the guy that put the power steering stuff on, we're gonna fix her. Maybe it wasn't even an issue. I don't know. Like all the other race cars that I've built and worked on, none of them had power steering because they're all drag cars. So this one obviously has a power steering foam. And I don't know, maybe that foam is normal with the cooler and it's just getting air out of the system. Or that's the next step. That's the next thing that we're gonna do is put the belt on. I think we're gonna have to jack the front up because it's not clearanced. Like the fenders aren't clearanced. So to get to full lock and full lock. So we'll do that real quick, and then this thing is getting really close to being ready to rip. I'm hyped.
It's quite a lot of angle there.
It's got that hashtag Mantis angle on it. Shout out to FDF for the angle kit. This thing is freaking amazing. The amount of angle you get out of these things is pretty cool. Remember it went across like this. Probably. Nice. Angle, my boy. That is shopping cart angle. Obviously, we can't quite run quite that much angle. We're gonna have to set up our bump stops and everything because if I run it with that much angle, it'll just destroy the steering rack. So we're gonna take some angle out of it. But
Pretty happy?
yeah, dude. I'm excited to drive this thing. It's so close. It just needs. I've said this many times and I'll say it again, dude. The last 5% of work on the car is like 90% of the work. It's taken me like twice as long to get all this miscellaneous crap done as it did to put the engine and transmission in the car. So like the big things on these, like they don't take anything, but it's all the little small stuff that just takes forever to do.
Adds up.
It adds up. So you guys noticed that I didn't put out a video last week or the week before that. It's just because we've been so slam busy. I was driving down to Adam's place, driving over to Delaware to the Streamliner guys to go bring that engine to them. I've been working 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. most days, and I just have not had any time to push videos out for this thing or even work on this thing. So finally getting back to it, stuff is starting to calm down a little bit, at least to the point where I can start working on things again. So not sure what next week's video is going to be. It could be with the blue car since the blue car is out and it's still ready. I got a little bit of, stuff to do on that I'm going to wrap up here in the next few weeks because we're going to go testing. So you just have to tune in and see. We'll either be this doing donuts or the blue car doing other cool stuff. PBs. That's what I'm talking about, son. Thank you guys for watching the channel. I appreciate you. Leave a like, leave a comment. Let me know what you want to see in this channel. I'm always open to doing new things, always looking for things to do, and I'll see you next time.